I've heard so many people complain about Hinge now, and Today I'm going to be sharing with you how all the algorithms from all the top dating apps work and ranking them so that you can figure out how to best master them and which ones you prefer. At least from what I've figured out, and I've also cross-referenced some news articles to back me up here. And I know you're wondering, what the heck are your credentials? But I've mastered dating apps and the key to making the perfect profile so that almost no one ever doesn't match with me. I could teach a whole course. Dating apps are really just a game that you have to learn how to play. Also, big shocker, my special interest as a child was puzzle solving and pattern recognition, so I went on to study user interaction in college with technology. So I'm really big into figuring out algorithms for different things.
And don't worry, I'm also here in 2024 to make the updates for how they've changed because they have gotten even worse in the last year.
In last place, we're putting Raya. I have no pros or information on the algorithm because I was never able to get on it. Coming in last place, we have Facebook dating. I tried to log onto there and there were maybe 5 users total, and they were a very interesting type. So my pros would be none and my cons would be the users using it. They're all very old, so not in my demographic. So in technical last place, we have Tinder. Anytime I've ever been essayed by a person in my life, they have been someone that I met on Tinder. Not a very good selling point. The pros to Tinder are there's a lot of users on there, so there's a lot of options. And I really enjoy the algorithm. The algorithm has an ELO-based rating system that a lot of these apps use. What that means is they will show you everyone they think is in your league and lower, and then occasionally sprinkle in more attractive people to keep you on the app. And a common question I get for all these apps is, how do they know who's attractive? So it's a numbers game, usually a math formula based off of like how many people are wanting to match with you and how many people swipe left. So the more swipes right you get, the higher your score is going to be. The cons would be the worst users I've ever encountered, which ties in with safety. If you ever want to just be yelled at by a man, go on Tinder. It is super glitchy. I've heard so many stories of people just getting banned for no reason at all. And lastly, there's almost no support on that app at all if you try and file for anything.
Most all the pricing models have gotten worse in the last year. I'd say Tinder's is probably the second worst of the entire bunch. A plus is that they do have a lower barrier to entry, so it's cheaper if you want a starting level, but a minus is that that literally only gets you more likes. That's like, who wants that? I don't know. It's lame.
Coming in above Tinder is Hinge as it stands of 2023. It was sold to Match.com, so is not the same as it used to be. I have noticed huge changes in this app in the last year or so that have made it completely garbage. It was originally one of my favorite apps to use because the original mission statement was very good, and now they seem to have lost that. I will say they have a decent support system. If you hassle them enough, you can get a live person sometimes. The design of the app is really good. Everyone agrees that it's very crisp and clean, and everyone just seems fancier on that app. Their original mission statement, which they have completely lost, was that it was for people finding actual relationships. It set them apart from Tinder. Everything on Hinge was supposed to be relationship-oriented, to the point where there was even a button where you could report people if they weren't looking for a relationship. Sadly, though, they have gotten rid of that recently. And I've actually gotten some dates off of Hinge. It's not too bad, as opposed to Tinder, where I think it's just a wasteland. Cons will be the recent algorithm. Now, Hinge claims to be very open and transparent about their algorithm, but it's a little bit confusing, and I think they're confusing you on purpose because it's complete BS. I go into detail in my old video I'll link, but they keep all the attractive people in Rose jail and then slowly sprinkle them into the app. So I was pretty much only getting Rose matches and then a few regular matches, but it's very annoying, and I just don't like the way they kind of force you to pay to play.
Hinge also made a very controversial update recently where you're only allowed to talk to so many people at a time before you have to either respond to them or unmatch before you can match with more people. And I actually kind of fully agree with the take. Like, I think conceptually it's a really good idea because you shouldn't be able to have like 100 unresponded to messages just sitting there. But I have noticed something shady about it. Once I reach that limit, my matches start absolutely pouring in. Like, I had never received so many matches than the day they implemented that rule. And I knew there was definitely something shady happening there to try and get you to pay more money. I'd say Hinge's prices is probably the best out of all of them. For the starting price, you get more out of it, but it's also like an insane price no one should ever pay anyway, so still an L.
First place, I'm putting Bumble because I've never actually had a bad experience with them. Bumble pros. They're a very good support system. At first, they'll send you an auto response, but if you send a follow-up message, they'll usually hit you with a real person. I remember one time I contacted them about something very serious, and they had like a real person write a real email back to me. It was like a surprisingly delightful experience compared to all the other apps. Bumble's algorithms is one of my favorite, actually, and I think it's funny that they're one of the only companies that declined to respond what their algorithm was in that news article, because I think their secret is they don't really have much of an algorithm. Like, I think they kind of just show you anyone and everyone in your area. And I like that. They're not gatekeeping anything and it's not overly fancy. And I think they're just embarrassed to admit that, maybe, with everyone else like flaunting their algorithms. The message response rate on Bumble is pretty high, and the only actual relationships I've ever gotten out of apps have come from Bumble, surprisingly. The cons, I would say, is the 24-hour window for response. Your girl got ADHD and I get busy, I forget to open the apps, and then they're gone. I'm so sorry. And I know some people love that women have to message first and some people don't.
They also had a lawsuit recently because a bunch of men got upset that women had to message first, which is like the whole point of Bumble, honey, just go use a different app. So that's not a rule anymore. Now men can message first, so I don't message them anymore since they ruined that. Good job. Not Bumble's fault that men ruin everything. Will say that of all the apps, Bumble is the most horrifically garbaged price of all of them. I don't know anyone in their right mind who would ever pay that much money just to date. Honey, I don't even pay that much for my phone bill and I'm still thinking about cutting it. There's no planet in this entire universe in which I would ever even consider that price tag for a dating app. However, you probably do get the most out of that one, but it's still not happening. I'm still putting Bumble at the best though, because like you get more out of the free version of their app than anyone else's.